Okay, folks, buckle up, because today we're going deep into biocomputers. No, I'm not talking about like your parents trying to set the clock on the microwave or something like that.
Oh, no.
We're talking
That kind of biocomputer.
real, living brain matter hooked up to computer chips.
Yeah.
Like, this is not science fiction. This is happening right now.
This is happening. It's really a mind-bending fusion of biology and technology.
It's like straight out of a William Gibson novel or something.
Yeah.
And I've been reading up on this, and to be honest, I'm not sure whether to be amazed or terrified.
Yeah.
Because, like, one company I was reading about is already selling a device that uses mouse neurons to smell stuff.
Right.
Like explosives and pathogens.
That's Koniku's Koniku device, and the crazy part is it's apparently more effective than sniffer dogs and traditional sensors.
So instead of a metal detector at the airport, we might be walking through like a box of mouse brain cells sniffing our luggage.
Yeah, well,
I'm not sure if that's progress or a horror movie waiting to happen.
It's definitely pushing the boundaries of what we think of as computing. But before we get too caught up in all the what-ifs and the scary possibilities, let's break down exactly what we're talking about when we say biocomputers.
Okay, what are we talking about here? Are we talking like Frankenstein's monster with a USB port?
Not quite Frankenstein, but essentially what a biocomputer does is it takes living brain matter, and this can either be individual neurons grown in a lab or even more complex 3D structures called organoids, and then it integrates that living brain matter with electronic components.
So these organoids, these are like mini brains grown in a petri dish or something.
Exactly. They're simplified versions of organs, in this case brains, that are grown from stem cells, and they're used in research to study how the organ functions, how it reacts to different stimuli.
So instead of lines of code, we have actual neurons firing away, crunching data the way nature intended.
Precisely, and that's where things get really interesting because biocomputers tap into the incredible efficiency of biological systems. You know, our brains, for all their complexity, they use remarkably little energy.
Okay, but why ditch silicon?
You know how your phone gets hot when you're playing a graphically intense game?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's wasted energy being dissipated as heat. Now imagine running that same game on a system that uses 1,000,000 times less power.
1,000,000 times.
That's what companies like FinalSpark, who offer cloud access to actual mini-brains, are claiming their biocomputers can achieve.
That's insane. So my electricity bill would love that. And I guess the planet wouldn't mind either, right? Less power consumption, less strain on the grid.
Absolutely. The potential environmental benefits of this technology are huge. We were talking about the energy it took to train those massive AI models like GPT-3.
Oh yeah?
A biocomputer could theoretically do that same task using a fraction of the energy, reducing the carbon footprint dramatically.
Okay, so we got brain cells playing Pong, sniffing out explosives and saving the planet.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see the appeal here.
Yeah.
Who are the mad scientists behind all of this?
Well, there are a few key players that are really pushing the boundaries of this technology. You mentioned Koniku with their Koniku smelling device, but there's also Cortical Labs in Australia. They've developed what's called the CL1, and that's basically like a mini lab on a chip where you can actually program human neurons in real time.
Wait, didn't they teach neurons to play Pong? I feel like I read that somewhere.
Yeah, that was their earlier dish brain project, and it was groundbreaking. They essentially had this layer of neurons in a dish, and they taught them to play Pong just by receiving feedback on their performance.
Brain cells hooked up to Pong. That's either brilliant or completely bonkers.
It's kind of both.
Yeah. So we've got Koniku sniffing things out. We've got Cortical Labs giving scientists their own little neuron playground. Who else is in this game?
Well, you've also got FinalSpark in Switzerland. They're offering cloud access to living mini brains.
Hold up. Renting brains in the cloud. What is going on? What do they even use that for?
It's mostly for research purposes right now. Scientists can conduct experiments, gather data on how these mini brains react to different stimuli.
Okay, I am officially mind blown. So we've got Koniku's sniffing out bombs and bad beer. Apparently Anheuser-Busch is using their tech for quality control.
Really?
Yeah. FinalSpark's got brains on demand in the cloud. And then we have Cortical Labs basically letting researchers tinker with brain cells like they're Legos.
This is getting weirder by the minute.
Yeah, and we're just scratching the surface here. The potential applications of biocomputers go way beyond games and beer. We're talking personalized medicine, super efficient AI, even brain-controlled robots.
Brain-controlled robots. Okay, now you're messing with me.
Oh, yeah.
We are definitely unpacking that one later. But first, let's talk about how these things actually learn. Is there like a tiny little brain surgeon inside each chip, like rewiring neurons with microscopic tweezers?
That's the beautiful thing about it. Biological learning is fundamentally different from how we program computers today. Neurons physically change their connections and their firing patterns based on the input they receive.
Yeah.
No software updates needed.
So instead of programming, we just kind of show it what to do and the brain figures it out. Yeah, think back to that dish brain experiment. Those neurons learn to play Pong through a process called reinforcement learning. They'd get feedback on whether their actions were successful, like hitting the ball versus missing it, and then they would adjust their activity accordingly, getting better with each round.
So they're not just processing data, they're actually learning from their experience.
Yeah.
That's incredible and a little bit scary.
Yeah, it's a paradigm shift in how we think about computing.
Okay, I am officially on board with this whole biocomputer thing.
Good.
But this is a big, but we're talking about messing with brains here.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they are mini lab-grown brains.
Yeah.
What about the ethics of all of this? Are we creating tiny little conscious beings and then forcing them to play Pong for our amusement?
That's a crucial question, and one that scientists and ethicists are grappling with as this technology advances.
Because I'm just picturing a tiny little brain cell trapped in a box screaming, I don't want to play Pong anymore. Let me out.
Well, let's not jump to conclusions.
All right, so we've established that biocomputers are like the weirdest, coolest, most potentially terrifying things ever.
Yeah.
But before we spiral into an existential crisis, let's talk about what this tech could actually do.
Right.
We've teased some pretty wild applications. But what does a future powered by biocomputers actually look like?
Well, imagine a world where diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's are a thing of the past.
Okay.
A world where your doctor can test treatments on a mini version of your own brain, grown from your own cells to find the most effective therapy with no side effects.
Wait, so instead of those poor lab rats, they could test drugs on a little me running around a tiny little maze in a petri dish. That's both fascinating and kind of creepy. Does mini-me get a say in this?
Well, it wouldn't be you in miniature, more like a simplified model of your brain's biology. But the idea is that it would react to drugs and treatments the same way your brain would, allowing for incredibly precise, personalized medicine.
So no tiny treadmills and weight sets for mini-me bummer.
Yeah.
But seriously, this personalized medicine thing is huge. And you're saying companies are already working on this.
Absolutely. Cortical Labs, the folks behind the dish brain experiment, they believe their CL1 chip could revolutionize drug discovery and testing. It could dramatically reduce the reliance on animal testing, which is both an ethical win and a scientific one.
Okay, I'm sold on the personalized medicine, but I'm still kind of stuck on this whole brain-controlled robots thing.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen enough sci-fi movies to know that never ends well.
Right.
Are we talking robot butlers or robot overlords here?
Well, it's early days, but the potential is there for both. Remember, our brains are incredibly complex biological computers. They're constantly sending and receiving signals that control our movements, our thoughts, our actions. What if we could harness that power to interface with machines directly?
So instead of using a joystick or a keyboard, I could just think about what I want the robot to do and it would just happen.
Yeah.
That's either the coolest thing ever or a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Just imagine the possibilities for awkward first dates. Hey, nice to meet you. Why is your robot staring at me like that?
Think beyond the dating mishaps. Imagine people with disabilities regaining mobility through brain-controlled prosthetics, or surgeons performing delicate operations remotely using robotic arms.
Okay, now those are some seriously life-changing applications. But let's be real, we're a long way from robots that can fold laundry and make a decent cup of coffee just by reading our minds.
True, but researchers are already making progress. There was a study where a brain organoid learned to navigate a maze by controlling a tiny robot. It's basic, but it shows the potential for these mini brains to learn and adapt to control complex machines.
Hold up, the robot was actually learning from the mini brain.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking remote control here,
Right.
but robots that can actually think and make decisions on their own.
That's the long-term goal. And it brings up another fascinating application, artificial intelligence.
Oh, right, we talked about how energy-efficient biocomputers are. 1,000,000 times more efficient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now imagine harnessing that efficiency to power AI. We could create AI systems that are not only more powerful, but also far less energy hungry, reducing the environmental impact significantly.
So a brain-powered AI, would it be super intelligent? Would it be able to learn anything instantly, like some kind of brainy supercomputer?
We're not talking about replicating human consciousness or anything like that, at least not yet.
Okay.
But even simple brain organoids exhibit complex learning and problem-solving abilities, potentially offering a new path to developing AI that's more intuitive and adaptable than current models.
So instead of like feeding it tons of data and hoping for the best, we could just show it a few examples and it would get the idea.
It's more like the way organoids learn is fundamentally different from how we program computers now. It's more analogous to how humans learn through experience, feedback, and adaptation.
So we're not just creating artificial intelligence, we're creating a whole new kind of intelligence. That's both exciting and slightly terrifying.
Yeah.
What happens when our creations get smarter than us? Will they demand robot rights? Will they stage a biocomputer uprising and enslave humanity? I've seen this movie and it doesn't end well for us.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Remember, we're talking about highly simplified lab-grown structures. They're a far cry from the complexity of the human brain.
Okay, that's reassuring. But still, this is some serious next-level stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So how long before we're living in this, like, brain-powered future
Yeah.
will I be ordering pizza with my mind next year?
Some of it's already happening. Koniku's Koniku is out in the real world, sniffing away. FinalSpark is offering cloud access to their mini-brains right now.
Yeah.
And Cortical Labs' CL1 chip is slated to ship next year.
Wow, so this isn't just some futuristic fantasy. It's happening now.
Yeah.
But how long before this tech goes mainstream? When can I expect to see, I don't know, brain-powered smartphones, brain-powered cars, brain-powered everything?
The next few years will be crucial. There are still some major hurdles to overcome. We need to address the complexity issue. These organoids are still nowhere near as complex as a real brain. And there's the reproducibility challenge. You can grow two organoids under identical conditions, and they might develop in completely different ways.
So it's like we're trying to build a supercomputer out of something that's basically a biological wildcard. That sounds challenging.
It is. It's a challenge that scientists are tackling head-on, though. And the progress they're making is remarkable.
Okay, I am officially on the edge of my seat.
Right.
But before we go full-on sci-fi, we need to circle back to the ethical questions.
Right.
We've talked about the potential for consciousness, but are there other concerns we should be thinking about? Like, what happens when my mini brain gets tired of playing Pong and wants a lunch break? Who gets to decide what it does and doesn't do?
Those are all valid questions and ones that researchers and ethicists are working together to answer. Because let's face it, this technology has the potential to be incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and as Spider-Man's uncle always said, with great power comes great something or other.
Responsibility.
Right, responsibility. So what are people doing to make sure this power is used responsibly?
Well, transparency is key. Many of the scientists and companies involved in biocomputer research are being very open about their work and are actively engaging with the public to address concerns and answer questions.
So it's not just a bunch of mad scientists locked away in their labs cackling maniacally. They're actually like talking to people and considering the ethical implications.
Absolutely. There are also groups working to establish clear ethical guidelines for research and development in this field, like the one behind the Baltimore Declaration.
The Baltimore Declaration. That sounds like a secret society of biocomputer overlords.
It's not that dramatic. It's basically a framework to ensure that research is conducted ethically, emphasizing things like informed consent, animal welfare, and responsible use of this technology.
Okay, that makes sense. But even with all the guidelines in the world, isn't there still a risk that this technology could be misused? I mean, let's be real. Humans aren't exactly known for always making the best choices.
That's true. Like any powerful tool, biocomputers could be used for good or for bad. It all comes down to who controls the technology and what their intentions are.
So we could use it to cure diseases and solve global problems. Or we could end up with a dystopian nightmare where robots rule the world and force us to play Pong against our will.
Well, let's hope it's the former. But the point is, we need to be vigilant. This isn't just a scientific challenge, it's a societal one. We all have a role to play in shaping the future of biocomputing.
So what can we, the average folks, do to make sure biocomputers are used for good and not for evil? Should we all start taking neuroscience classes? Should we start stockpiling tinfoil hats to protect our brains from rogue biocomputer signals?
First, relax, the tinfoil hat won't help. But seriously, staying informed is key. Learn about the technology, the potential benefits and risks, and engage in conversations about it.
So talk to our friends, our family, maybe even our elected officials. Make sure everyone knows we're paying attention and we care about how this tech develops.
Exactly. This is a powerful technology with the potential to reshape our world, and it's crucial that we approach it with both excitement and caution.
Well said.
Yeah.
This whole biocomputer thing is mind-boggling, to say the least.
Yeah.
It's like peeking into the future and seeing a world that's both familiar and completely alien.
Yeah, and it's a future that's still being written.
We've talked about the science, the potential, and even the possibility of brain-powered robots taking over the world. Fingers crossed, they at least keep the pizza delivery coming.
Yeah.
But now we're facing the ultimate question. If these mini brains can actually learn and adapt, do they deserve rights?
It's a question that's both fascinating and a little unsettling. We're so used to thinking of rights in terms of human beings, but as we start to blur the lines between biology and technology, those definitions start to get a little fuzzy.
Right? It's like my dog gets more rights than my Roomba, even though my Roomba does a way better job of cleaning up crumbs. But if my Roomba suddenly starts like learning and adapting and demanding belly rubs, well, that's a whole other situation.
Exactly. And that's where things get complicated with biocomputers because we're essentially creating these systems that mimic some of the most fundamental aspects of life,
Yeah.
learning, adapting, problem solving. So at what point do those systems deserve the same ethical considerations as any other living organism?
So if my Roomba starts composing poetry and demanding kibble, I should call a lawyer, not an exterminator.
Maybe not a lawyer just yet, but it does raise some important questions. Right now, the consensus is that these mini brains, even the more complex organoids, aren't conscious in the way that we typically think of it. They don't experience emotions or self-awareness.
So they're not like sitting in their little petri dishes plotting the downfall of humanity.
Probably not. But as this technology advances, as we create larger, more complex biocomputers, those ethical considerations are going to become more and more pressing. It's a shared responsibility, for sure. And it starts with open and honest conversations about the ethical implications of this technology. That's why initiatives like the Baltimore Declaration are so important.
Right, we talked about that before. It's basically a set of guidelines to make sure that the research and development in this field is done responsibly and ethically.
Exactly. It emphasizes things like transparency-informed consent, especially when it comes to the source of the cells that are used to create these biocomputers, and considering the potential impact on both humans and the environment.
So no harvesting brain cells from unsuspecting victims to power our robot overlords.
Let's hope not. But seriously, ethical sourcing of biological material is a major concern. Most research right now uses cells that are donated by consenting adults or stem cells. But as the demand for this technology grows, those ethical considerations need to remain front and center.
Okay, so we're having the conversations, we're setting guidelines, we're being responsible with our biomaterials. But even with all of that in place, isn't there still a risk that this technology could be misused? I mean, we humans have a bit of a track record when it comes to messing things up.
It's a valid concern. Like any powerful technology, biocomputers have the potential for both good and bad. It's up to us as a society to ensure that this technology is used for the benefit of humanity and not for harm.
So no brain-powered superweapons or mind-control devices.
Right.
We're all hoping for a utopia, not a dystopian nightmare. Yeah.
Exactly. And that means staying informed, engaging in these conversations, and making our voices heard. We need to be active participants in shaping the future of this technology.
Okay, so no tinfoil hats, but definitely lots of conversations.
Yeah.
We need to educate ourselves, talk to our friends and family, and let our elected officials know that we care about the ethical development of this technology.
Absolutely. The future of biocomputers isn't predetermined. It's up to us to shape it.
Well said. So there you have it, folks. Biocomputers. The mind-bending, potentially world-changing technology that's already here and evolving at a dizzying pace. We've explored the science, the potential applications, and the ethical dilemmas that come with merging living matter with machines. It's a lot to wrap your head around, but one thing's for sure, this is a journey you don't want to miss.
Stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. The future is waiting to be written, and biocomputers might just be the pen.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the wild world of biocomputers. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to tune in next time for another fascinating exploration of the frontiers of science and technology. Until then, keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep those tinfoil hats handy, just in case.